Hello everybody, my name is Ellisa Cooper and I am cooking in quarantine. So I'm one of those people who has always tried to make the most of everything. So all the years of the plastic garbage bag, the two-handled garbage bag, I installed two hook screws here in the side of my little green shelving unit here, and I've always hung those two handles, and that's been my garbage bags for years. I mean, like, really, I can count on one hand the number of containers of hefty bags I've bought in the last 30 years. So now I'm in trouble because I no longer can get plastic grocery bags. They've been banned here in New York. And of course I have all of the canvas bags and everything set up right by my door. But on days like today, when I have every intention of making chili, but as I was brushing my hair, realized I had no beer or canned tomatoes in the house. So as always, I go dashing out at the last minute. But because I went dashing out at the last minute, I forgot to take a grocery bag. So here's what I bought at the grocery store this morning. They were having a sale on the beans. So I got a few extra cans of beans. I got some San Marzano tomatoes. I got two things of beer, but the first one I got was a spray of them because I've decided that as soon as we can travel again, I want to go to Barcelona. Again, I love Barcelona. I got some tomato paste and I got some cheddar cheese. So now I'm in a much better situation to make chili. So let me take my purse, which I carried all of my groceries home in this morning. That's why every girl should have a really, like this purse is made out of like saddle leather. I don't think you could hurt it. I pray you can't hurt it. I love it. My mother always says the reason that I'm in pain is because my purse is so heavy. So anyway, here's what we do. My chili is fantastic, but it's super, super simple. It just requires a little patience. So my ingredients are beef, tomato, I have here San Marzano crushed tomatoes, and beer. That's basically my three ingredients, because one of the things I always do when I make chili is I buy a Wick Fowler's chili kit. Why? Because it requires so much chili powder to properly make chili that why would I empty a $9 container of chili powder when I can just buy exactly what I want right here, right now, and then I've got my good chili powder when I want to use it a little bit at a time. So that's my secret. Normally, I put a much hoppier beer, but again, like I said, missing Barcelona today. So I always put an IPA into my chili because I think that super, super hoppiness really brings out some of the fruity characteristics in the chili. So there we go. So here's what I'm going to do. This is pretty simple. I've got my cast iron skillet over here. And so the first thing I'm going to do is, I should have done this earlier, but like I said, I realized I had to go to the grocery store at the last minute. So I did not get all my prep done. Actually, I overslept today. Slept till like 7:30, 8. It's not like me. So what I did was I had these two New York strips that didn't get cooked a couple of days ago as I had predicted. So they were almost on the edge and I didn't want to eat them yesterday. So I've covered them in paprika, cumin, garlic powder, all kinds of delicious herbs and spices, and put a couple of bay leaves up here on top of them. Covered them, put them in the fridge, let them sit overnight, pulled them out this morning. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cube this. But first I'm going to push the sleeves up on my thing. So today I'm wearing my Miracle Icon. Mary Jo Payne is a friend who makes these. If you don't know about them, look them up. Worn by stars. Timothée Chalamet was recently seen wearing one when he was on Saturday Night Live. Pretty exciting, huh? So anyway, I'm going to take this steak and I'm going to put them into little cubes because I want them to be bite-sized pieces. I always use meat, not ground meat, when I make chili. I never use ground meat. For those of you out there who have ideas about chili, first of all, I grew up in the Ohio River Valley, which means I was raised on Cincinnati style chili. Now, Cincinnati style chili, I just realized you can't see my hands. Cincinnati style chili is always done with ground beef, and it is done with, pardon me, and you do that meat so that it is super, super fine. Not chunky, it's got to be super fine, almost like your tomato sauce just simply has a little texture. That's really what it's like. And that said, then you serve it on top of spaghetti noodles with cheddar cheese and raw onions. That's Cincinnati style chili. And if anybody out there says I've forgotten something about it, shout out and remind me. It's been a long time. I am more of a Texas style chili person. And I know that there are lots of people out there who would say that you don't put beans in real chili. Well, there's never a good reason to not put beans in things, I think. So if you can put a bean in it, darn it. And I think that's a little fatty. I'm going to pull that out and give that a separate trim. I'm going to, as soon as I get this chopped up, I'm going to get I already got in here and got this started towards heat. So this will heat back up pretty fast. And I'm going to give it a little spin of oil. I had just given it a new wipe of Crisco, so it should be nice and greasy in there. So I'm going to trim this weird piece of fat off here because it didn't want to get cut through. And there is steak number 1, and you see my little bite-sized pieces here. They'll shrink up kind of small, but because this is a super fatty piece of meat, right? I would normally use a sirloin if I was just going to go to the store and say, hey, I'm going to make chili today, and not with stuff that's already in my fridge. So I'm just going to make sure I cut through all of them, that I don't have any sinew that somebody's going to have to feel like they need to pull out of their mouth. Here's the first one, almost ready to go. And yeah, but one more little piece of sinew that needs to come off here. There we go. Now, almost. There's a lot of little pieces in here that I did not cut all the way through to. Here we go, and that looks, finally, I think I got it all. And my thing should be nice and hot. So I'm going to take about half of this and put it in there. You don't want it, this is one of those don't crowd it situations. I'd like for these to get, each of these little pieces to get some kind of a char on it, you know, or at least a little crunchy, crispy, browned up, because that's going to bring flavor to our stew, right? Because chili's nothing but a stew. So now that I've got these little bits and pieces not crowding each other, I'm going to turn around and cut the other steak. So this time I'm going to go ahead and cut that little piece of fat off the edge. Perfect. Maybe put it down in the pan just to render, right? So now give that a nice cut all the way down, and a nice cut all the way down. Beautiful. Here we go. And one last. These might be a little big than the last few bites, but who cares? Because, like I said, they're going to cook down. So, to those of you who are out there, and hello, hello, hello. I said to a friend this morning, I said, you know, I'm a little blue, and it's hard to get up and put your big girl smile on when you're feeling a little blue. And I think that I've realized that the right thing to do is to admit that, because I'm sure we all are feeling a little blue. I actually spent several hours on the phone last night talking to a childhood friend who was feeling a little blue. So embrace it is what I'm going to say, guys. Yeah, Carolyn, I'm not crazy about that Cincinnati chili either. So anyway, embrace it, you guys. Sit down, write about it, watch a movie that makes you cry, work through it. It's natural, right? We're all going to feel a little blue from time to time. It's my biggest, I said the other day when I saw that one of the words of the year was unprecedented, I said, I would really look forward to the time when I never hear the word unprecedented again. I would like for there to be precedented times for the next 10 years, right? Things that are without precedent scare the bejesus out of me. So I'm going to give these a little toss around, and it got exactly what I wanted. There's a nice char on that first side of these little bits of meat. And you don't have to worry about overcooking them because they're going to spend the next couple of hours cooking down in the acidy tomato sauce, right? So you can't hurt it. That said, I realize I have not started my onions, so I have to set these aside. Because, you know, this is the day when I don't have my act together. It happens to the best of us, right? So, no judgment. So here I'm going to get these little guys out here. I guess I need to put a piece of paper towel down so that they can gather up the greasiness. There we go. And that's all I wanted, was just to get a little bit of brown on the edges of those little tiny pieces of meat, right? So there's this and this. And there's one last little guy. And now pull these back over here. Da-dum-ba-dum. I am so glad for the wheel. It's one of my favorite inventions. So a few more pieces here. Get them spread out. Now, I realize I do not have this on as hot as I did initially, so I'll want to change that up just a little bit here as I get them straightened out and spread out. Beautiful. Almost. Sometimes I don't remember what I've talked about, and since it's a Tuesday, and I haven't been here since, what, Friday, I guess I haven't asked. Have I asked? Has everyone started watching Bridgerton? It's amazing. I absolutely am crazy about it. And I hope that everybody goes full on Shonda from now on, because it is absolutely delightful to see faces that are not all exactly the same. I love it. I love everything about it. And if you haven't watched it, it is a delightful comedy of manners. And I cannot wait for the next season. Like, really, it's like Mrs. Maisel to me. I can't wait for the next season. Now, I'm having trouble with my onion skin. There we go. Now, let me get this little rough outer edge out, but it doesn't want to help me at all. There we go. Fighting with the onions, watching the beef sear. Seems like a great way to spend the day, right? So I've got my first got this nice piece of onion. And this is not, you can really scale this however you want. Make it as much, as little as you need. This Wick Fowler kit calls for 2 pounds of meat to start with. And there we go. So, I've got these here. Let's give a look over here and see what these little guys are looking like. And they're doing really well. Nice. Maybe not quite. Of course, it's kind of like the first pancake gets thrown out, and the first steak always sears better, right? Here we go. Go. And let's get this onion ready to go. Here's my way of cutting onions. If I've never talked about this on here, I always cut them in half from the root end after cutting the other end off. I split them right down the middle, and then I simply score them long ways, so that about whatever size I want them to be, and then cut them out this way. And you have perfect little bits of yummy onion bits. And it's super quick and super easy. And I usually don't cut my hand off, which is, for me, a pretty good thing. There's that. And how are these little bits of meat looking? I think they're looking nice and browned up. Oh, beautifully browned. Oh, how nice. 1 second. I'm going to go ahead. There's one little piece in there that could use just a little more browning. So I'm going to take that time to do this to the other onion. Other onion. Da-da-dum. Now, I'm going to come over here and get my little bits of meat out of here. Back in the bath with the others. There we go. And I'm going to come and get my last few little bits over here and get them in. Last batch. A few little renegade onions. Don't worry, it's all part of my plan. My evil, evil plan. So here we go. I've already had a request for a batch of my lasagna this weekend, which means that I'm going to have to go out and find sage sausage, because if you remember from back when I was made it the last time, sage sausage is the secret to my lasagna. And it's very hard to find sometimes in New York because people don't buy their breakfast sausage in rolls. They seem to buy them in the little finger pieces, which are just worthless to me. That is not exciting to me. I do not like that. So anyway, here we go. Let's pull this back. See how this last little batch of meat bits are coming along. This is great. It's really, my skillet is super dry now. I like that. That's great. That means that all the fat I put in there has gotten sucked up into my meat bits. And that's just going to be that much better. So I'm going to cut the last of my onion. And as soon as these last little bits of meat are done, I'm going to put this onion into that skillet because I want to get all the fond from the meat into the onion. And while that's happening, then we'll get prepared for, we'll get the garlic prepared because I'm not quite there yet either. And I actually have a ton of other things going on over here. I have a ton of stuff. I had to clean the fridge out basically in the last couple of days. So I've got some already cooked beets over here draining that I'm going to cut up with some green beans and potatoes. I've got some haricot vert and some little tiny potatoes. I'm going to cut them up and put them all together. And I've made some blue cheese dressing with some remaindered blue cheese, and I've got some red onion. All that's going to go together and make a little salad that'll go on top of my favorite lettuce, frisee. So that's going to be, that can be a meal today, because this can't be a meal until tomorrow. I just think that chili, any kind of stewy thing, really is so much better if you'll turn it off, let it come to room temperature, cover it, put it in the fridge overnight, and then bring it back up to room temperature the next day before reheating it. So this is looking great. I'm going to take these little bits and throw them over here. And excellent. Let me see what my heat is like. I'm going to turn that down ever so slightly. Give myself a nice little batch of oil. You know, I washed all of my wine glasses this weekend because they were covered in grease and fat, smoke and stuff. And of course, I've just ruined them all. You can't even believe the smoke through here. One thing I would do if I could is I wish there was some way to get a smoke eater in here, you know. But I don't know quite how to address that, mostly because I haven't thought about it before today. But if you will hold on just 1 second, one thing I can do is open my bathroom air return and the front door. I'll be right back. Here's the front door opening. And here comes the air return. Ah, now the air is moving. Ah, very good, very good. Thank you for your patience, everybody. But already it's different. Just opening the door, front door, propping open the front door a little bit, and getting the air return on just immediately made things start moving around a lot. So here we go. As you see, pardon me, all of the yumminess from those from the meat is now collecting onto the onions as they cook. Yum, yum, yum. And I'm going to give that just a second more because I'm going to move it into my Dutch oven because my Dutch oven has a top and I can cover it and walk away from it for long periods of time, right? I can't do that with my skillet. And here this is going to give me devilly. This is the thing that my stove does very often. It won't open won't turn on the second burner. There we go. Let's turn that down to a good level. And here's my good old trusty, my baby's first Le Creuset. Voila, a key. So that's going to warm up. I'm going to turn the heat off over here. And we're going to scrape up that bit of onion and all of the stuff that we can off the bottom of that pan. Get that ready to transfer. My cousin Kathy said she reached in and got a pan out of the oven the other day that had been turned on 400 for like an hour and burned the heck out of her hand. So I'm going to try not to burn the heck out of my hand. Although I always feel like that this is so uncomfortable trying to use your right hand. So if I ever get another kitchen, I'm going to reorient it so that I can use my left hand and still let y'all see what I'm doing. It would be so much easier. So there's this. So the onions are now down here in the pan. And I'm going to transfer my meat bits into the pan. There we go. And it's soaked up a bit of juice here. I need a couple cloves of garlic here. Let's see. One. Biggest, fattest ones are the ones I always like the best. When they get down to the middle, I have to think of things to do with them. Here we go. Here we go. So, I learned something the other day. If you give them a smash and cut off their root end, they peel a lot easier. How did I get to be this many years old before I realized that? I've literally struggled with garlic my whole life. Only to learn, it could have been so much simpler all along. So, there we go. Cut that off. Oops, I may have cut the wrong end off. Let's try that again. Whoops. There we go. Now we're going. See, I'm just talking to myself today. Don't know what I'm doing. Just playing. And here we go. So, I do have something, you know, I told you at the beginning I was feeling a little sad and that was a thing. And I don't mean to be so darn anti-feminist about what I'm about to say. But I got up this morning and realized that I have lost all the weight that I gained after I quit smoking. So, hooray for me. And I feel very proud of that because, you know what, it's not easy to quit smoking, but it's even harder to lose weight after 50. So, I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back. And now I'd like to get back to what the one promise that I didn't keep myself for my 50th was that I would get back to my 30-year-old weight. And I didn't get there. So now that's my next goal. I've gotten off the smoking weight. Now we're going to get off the rest. All right. So this is all married. I can't speak married together. I just realized I haven't salted anything. So let's get the first batch of salt in here and fill this little baby up. Here we go. We are going to put more kosher salt into the little precious little cut glass salt cellar. And I'm going to put, you know, you really, chefs put a lot of salt in, and that's why their food tastes good. If you're trying to put a quarter teaspoon of salt into something and think it's going to taste good, it's not. You need a tablespoon. Use it all, I say. Use it all. So, there's this. Now, the next thing I need to do, I'm almost ready for my garlic. But I also am going to need to be ready for my tomatoes. And this is a new thing I'm learning to do now that we're in COVID, is to wash off my can tops. I always lived according to the idea that that which does not kill me makes me stronger. Now that I realize that that which does not kill me makes me a long hauler is completely different. So I'm going to try to do that. So this is all melded together really beautifully. And there's like this really nice juiciness that's coming in here. Oh, that looks beautiful. So let's get this can of San Marzano crushed tomatoes. Let me pull this back here where you guys can see me a little better. And I promise tomorrow I'm going to try to get up a lot earlier so that I'm a little better off when we get started here. So I've got my 4 or 5 small cloves of garlic here. And I'm just going to grate them right in. 1. 2. Strange, I'm going to throw that there. 3. 4. Oops, got away from me. Somebody's going to get a big mouthful of garlic someday. And there we go. There we go. So, now I'm going to get that a little stir. Beautiful. Now it's time for the chili kit. So I'm going to pop this open, and the first thing I'm going to do is get the chili powder. Because the chili powder is like a bark, right? It needs a long time to cook in order to soften up and get completely into your dish. So I'm just taking it all in there, boom, boom, boom. Chili powder right there. And now I'm going to mix that all around so that all of that gets completely coated. See, the sizzling has stopped because that chili powder has taken up all of the moisture in my pan. All right, so there's that. Let's close this drawer. Let's put some of my mess away so you don't have to look at it. And then let's get the can of tomatoes in here. And I want just enough in there to kind of re-wet that. I'm not going to just go dumping all of this in here at once. Now let's get that wet. So again, we want all of that chili powder to stick to your meat, to your onions, right? Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's really almost just like a paste down in here. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Because we don't want it to get so wet with tomato that it takes forever for your beer to cook down. Because I like to let it cook long enough that 2 whole beers are going to cook down here. So I've got this going, and now what are our other herbs and spices in here? So you have these dried onions. I don't use them because I use real onions. This is really supposed to be like you could take it camping and make your own, right? So I am going to use 100% of the cumin because I love cumin. I clearly was a Spanish princess in a past life because I love all of that kind of food and flavors. And like I said, we're going to estrella damm today. Fussy sauce. Paprika. We can put 100% of the paprika in because that doesn't impact our heat, right? Just flavor and coloring, right? So, the last 2 things here, the masa, which I don't use because I let mine cook down and it doesn't need to be thickened when I'm done with it. So, a little bit more just to mix in here. And now I still probably have 1/4 of that can left, and I will eventually put it in there, but I'm first going to see where I turn up here with when I get the beer incorporated into this. So instead of water or stock, I use beer. That's that. So here we go. And now let's just start the pouring. May the pouring begin. So I'm going to have just enough. So listen to that beautiful sound of it getting down in there and making noise. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, now there's that. Now, see, that about half of that beer and about 3/4 of the can makes it a really, really nice consistency, right? It's still thick, but it's also moving. So there's enough liquid in here to be able to start to break down all of that woodiness of the chili powder. And that really is the key to it, is the cooking down of the chili powder. So that, my friends, oh, and the smell of the beer getting a little bit warm makes me feel like I want to go work harvest somewhere and start making wine. 'Tis the season to start making wine. Anyway, guys, so that's pretty simple how I make my chili. I'm going to cover that. I'm going to let it cook for at least a half an hour before I come check it again. And when I check it again, I'll probably give it a little taste, see what it tastes like, put more beer, put more tomato, and just let it cook down for a few hours until, again, all of that woodiness of the chili powder has completely broken down. And here's mine. It doesn't want to work again today. It's flashing 8s. I don't know why. my less than 6 months old kitchen timer that I've changed the batteries on twice still doesn't want to work properly. Oh, I heard a cheep. There it goes. So I'm going to give this 30 minutes, and I have my heat turned, my flame very low down here, like almost if a stiff wind came through, it might blow it out and kill me, right? So I'm going to put all this stuff aside, and this stuff aside, gather the things that I don't really use, and it's time to start cleaning up, guys, I think. Like I said, I've got some stuff over here. I do have some mushrooms that didn't get used when I made steak or something in the last couple of weeks. Steak and mushrooms. So I'm gonna cook down some mushrooms, and I think I'll go downstairs later today and get a small bowl of dough and maybe make a little pizza. It's been months since I've done that because, again, we're not going to eat chili at least until tomorrow. And I do have all this beautiful salad that I can prepare. So, guys, I hope that you, again, embrace your sadness, take care of yourself, get a walk. If the sun is shining, a little vitamin D in your rods and cones of your eyes always helps. But in the absence of that, a vitamin D supplement clearly is a big piece of people who do well as opposed to people who do poorly with this disease. So, guys, thank you all for being here. I feel 100% better than I did when I got started. I am not as sad as I was when I got started because I have purpose. And I think that that's really the big key here, is that we all have to find our own place and our own purpose in this time that we're in. So be kind to yourself, be gentle to yourself, love yourself, feed yourself, read a book. You know, the other day I was feeling a little blue and I flipped on Netflix and I watched 3 John Mulaney stand-up specials in a row that I'd seen before, that he is so funny that I laughed just as though I'd never heard the jokes before. I could probably tell a couple of them. Anyway, guys, do something for you today. Take care of you. Eat well. Exercise. Smile. Laugh. Just feel better. Until tomorrow, guys. Ciao, ciao.